Hello again, everybody. I didn't think I'd be putting on another rant this quickly, but I found stuff that I want to talk about, and I'm starting to get used to these at least. So let's get started. So, for a little bit of context of why I'm creating this video, for those of you who watched all of my content, I hope you have. If you haven't, go watch it. I spent a lot of time on it. Not that it's any good, but I spent a lot of time on it, and it would mean a lot to me. It's still garbage, but whatever. In a lot of my rant type videos, I have a game called Furi in the background. I enjoy the game Furi. I think it's pretty. I think it's fun to watch. That's why I put it in the background. I'm not going to put like Dragon Age Inquisition or Chess Master or whatever in the background because I don't think it's that interesting. So that's why I put Furi in the background. So I enjoy Furi quite a lot. I beat it like 2 days ago. And after I beat it, I was like, whoa. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a very what the fuck ending, at least the ending that I got. There's apparently a bunch of other ones. I googled it. I was like, alright, let me see the wiki. Let me see if there's any information I can glean from the wiki and stuff. Turns out the wiki, 1, is very hard to find, and 2, not very fleshed out, not a lot of information there. But while I was trying to find the wiki, one of the first things that came up actually was an article from Kotaku. Now, there are a lot of reasons why I don't enjoy reading Kotaku articles, but this one was about Furi, so I gave it the benefit of the doubt, hoping that it was positive and that it gave it some sort of insight, because nobody knows what this, I have not come across anybody else who plays this game. It's not very well renowned. I guess it just came out like a few months ago, so the point is that I wish that more people played it. Anyway, read the article. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I don't enjoy reading Kotaku articles. If I ranted about Kotaku in general, this video would be 4 to 5 minutes long, and nobody wants to listen to me talk about that. So, let's get started with the article, right? Article is titled, Indie Boss Battler Furi is the Wrong Kind of Hard. And this was, by the way, dated like a month and a half ago, so I'm kind of late to the party, but whatever. The article starts with, my issue with Furi isn't that it's too hard. Spoiler alert, it is, because it's too hard. That's exactly why she made the article and exactly why it's so biased. She continues. It's a woman, by the way. Cecilia D'Anastasio. I don't know how to pronounce that. Whatever. So, that's the author. That's the author of the article. So, we move on. For a fast-moving action game entirely built around boss fights, a certain amount of exasperation is to be expected. My issue is that the game is too hard in the wrong ways, and perhaps for the wrong reasons. We'll ignore that for now. We'll get to that later. Furi, released today for Steam and PS4 by the French indie studio The Game Bakers, offers a series of boss fights of escalating difficulty. I'm going to stop her right there. The bosses do not escalate in difficulty. They just use different mechanics. I was really good up until like the 6th or 7th boss, and they just kicked my ass over and over again. One boss is just a giant bullet hell. Most of the bosses are a combination of bullet hell and like reflex beat 'em up. Basically, you have to have good reflexes for them. But a large majority of the bosses utilize a different mechanic. Like, I know that the third boss was a very weird... Like, he was able to stop time and stuff. And you shoot bullets, and your own bullets can hit you if they get bounced back or something. So you're almost creating... If you realize that you shouldn't shoot. And then he also has, like, shields and stuff. It's a very interesting boss mechanic. My favorite one, the 5th one... he can block a lot of attacks, and you realize that you have to get close to him and then dodge out of the way. That way, you goad him into attacking. Like, they all use different mechanics. One of the worst ones for me was the 7th one, the Edge. And there's no shooting involved. It's just melee reflexes. They each use different mechanics. The last boss for me was ridiculously easy. Maybe the game did that on purpose. I don't know. Each boss uses a different mechanic. They don't escalate in difficulty. They just use different mechanics, which is... I don't know. I don't know what she's even talking about there. She continues. There are no levels in between, no disposable cannon fodder enemies, just you and the bosses. It's a premise that is immediately compelling to fans of old-school beat-em-ups. Nostalgic for the adrenaline rush of defeating inflated enemies. The premise is bound by a plot thin enough to account for an all-meat kind of game. I don't know if that's supposed to be a compliment or an insult. Whatever. You are an escaped prisoner fighting your way to freedom. At the outset, the game offers you two difficulty modes, Furi, which is what's recommended, and the easier Promenade. Furi isn't coy about its difficulty, the game is balanced to be challenging and demanding, it confidently explains. Yes, this is absolutely correct. You're presented with these two difficulties. You should play the game on Furi. Promenade, I'll get to Promenade later. She continues. Later, if you defeat Furi, you're offered Furier, described as the true challenge for Masters of Combat. I have played Furier, it is So ridiculous. The issue is that Promenade removes boss phases from bosses. It makes the game easier, very easier. And Fury is like a right blend. Because Furier, the hardest difficulty, adds boss mechanics. It adds different phases to bosses. So if you play Fury, you get the hang of the bosses. Furier will just completely switch them on you. There's different maneuvers and different mechanics and stuff. It's not better, it's just different. She continues. After that, you can unlock speedrun mode. You unlock both Furier and speedrun mode at the same time. I want to elaborate on that. You unlock them both after you defeat Fury mode. Although Promenade isn't significantly easier than Fury, it is a lot more significantly easier than Fury. You get more lives. They completely cut out boss mechanics. It's much easier. You're shamed for picking it, which made me wonder why it was included at all. Really, you're not only ashamed for picking it as much as you're ashamed for being the kind of person who would pick it. Anyone will be able to enjoy the universe and the story, but the game will be much shorter and very easy. Does not unlock trophies, the Furier difficulty, and the speedrun mode. After you select Promenade, Fury warns you again that you're a wimp. Are you sure you want to change the difficulty? It will prevent you from feeling the rush of combat. Once you've changed the difficulty, you can't go back to the current difficulty. Ouch. The word Promenade is a constant reminder on screen that you're not playing the game right. I do partially agree with her. You should not play the game on Promenade. You don't feel the rush of combat. The bosses are a lot easier. They remove entire mechanics out of the boss fights that I thought were exhilarating. She's absolutely incorrect in assuming that you shouldn't play the game on Promenade mode. Again, I'll get to what Promenade mode is, what I think it should be meant for. She moves on. Okay, I thought, I get it. This is a hard game for real gamers. Combat is brutal. You can slash, shoot, parry, and dash, mechanics that, for me, usually inspire a state of flow regardless of the game's difficulty. The key, it seems, is memorizing the boss's animations and training your reflexes to adequately respond to their attacks. No problem, but the delay on your dash mechanic, intentionally I imagine, makes it extremely difficult to time when dodging an area of attack blow. I agree with her mostly. That's how the game... I mean, most beat-em-ups do require you to memorize boss animations. It's just how they work. The one thing I don't agree with her is the delay on the dash. I don't feel that. I felt it was almost instantaneous. It's almost like you're teleporting, to be honest, with a cool, like, blue trail. I don't know what delay she's talking about. She goes on. Similarly, the window for parrying only lasts a fraction of a split second. Yeah, that's how parrying works. Which is masterable if your reflexes are acute, yeah? These design choices assuredly are why Fury is billed as extraordinarily challenging. Not really, but... She goes on, and yet I wished that instead of a delayed dash or a too-quick parry, which don't exist, I don't know why she's making these things up, I didn't feel a delay in the dash, and the parries were just right. I mean, it's like Dark Souls, or parrying in most games, or most fighting games, like Soul Calibur or Street Fighter or whatever. There's a reflex element here, yes. On the second boss level, a maniacal screaming female enemy maneuvers around a maze, firing lasers at you. You're forced on the defensive, hiding in the maze's strategic nooks, while she occasionally hurls barely announced attacks at you that you've never seen before. You're supposed to use the maze, because the maze will actually block the bullets and lasers and stuff. I think that she was caught off guard by the lasers, because I don't think the first boss used any lasers, and I think that's why she's calling them barely announced. But I don't agree with her in that they're barely announced. I agree with her that you've never seen them before. That is, the second boss is the first boss to use lasers. I agree with her. That's absolutely correct. But they're not barely announced. And she has two different types of laser attacks. One where she stares at the ground, and then slowly builds up to like a super speed, like almost like a... It's hard to explain. It's like a vertical laser attack. But the boss looks at the ground first and then looks up at you. So you can clearly see that it's coming. You can just dodge to the left or the right. The other laser attack she uses is a left to right sweeping attack. And the only reason I could imagine you getting hit by that is if you're too slow on the dash or you mistime the dash. If you go too early, you'll hit the laser. If you go too late, you get hit by the laser still. Like, you have to time that right. And almost every single boss has lasers after this. So it's a mechanic you gotta get used to. The thing about Fury is that you can charge up your dashes. You have plenty enough time between when you see the laser start at the left and it sweeps across the screen to the right. You have plenty enough time to charge up your dash so that even if you are early, you still can make it across the laser. So, I don't know what she's talking about here. In moments like this, I couldn't tell the difference between balanced to be challenging and imbalanced also challenging. I don't know what she's talking about. This seems like a woman who doesn't play very difficult games and is now complaining about how difficult this game is. 7 minutes of tedious walking cutscene between the fights wasn't enough to cool me down. I don't know. I think cutscenes is supposed to be plural. That seems like a weirdly worded sentence. But yeah, I thought that the cutscenes were great. The walking between the boss fights was beautiful, and this Donnie Darko, your companion in the game, gives you exposition about the next boss you fight. This one is the one who actually took you down. This is the guy who led an army against you. Like, he gives you exposition about the bosses, which I think is super cool. I like the walking, and it's pretty. The game is very pretty. So, we'll go on. In more direct combat, if you land 3 successful slashes against an enemy, your character goes into an automatic attack animation. I don't know what she's talking about here. That's not how the game works. In the game, I think she's talking about that weird combo frame animation that you can do, and that's only if you charge up an attack. You charge up your slash and you hit them with it. You can hit them again, and it's like riposting in Dark Souls, except you don't need to parry. You just like do a dash attack and they get caught off guard, and then you hit them again and you do the weird. Also, if you get a perfect parry frame. So when you parry, you have a few frames where if an attack hits you, it bounces off and you get healed. If you activate your parry right as the attack hits you on the exact frame, you get a perfect parry frame animation, and they're caught off guard, and you can slash, and you'll go into this weird animation. It's good. It's a good combat mechanic, and she even says that. She goes on, it's a reward for rare successes. Not rare, I do it all the time. But it also made me feel like I had less agency over my character. You're nitpicking now. The animation for the combo was too long, right? It's distancing, but looks excellent. Empty sentences again. And then she goes on, as I played Furi, I kept thinking of Hyper Light Drifter, another demanding by design slash and dash game. HLD has similar combat mechanics, but appears more indifferent to its own difficulty. Classier, really. When you die in that game, the music doesn't even pause. The game's menus don't denigrate for you failing to meet its standards. It just implicitly asks you try harder. Yeah? I mean, this game kind of does that too. When you die, it says you can change the difficulty, game over, quit menu, or continue. And your companion, your Donnie Darko with the bunny head dude, says, "Hey, you need to try harder, man," or he'll give you like one boss says that I'm better than you, and you go and he tells you like, "No, you're good enough. Trust me, your best is good enough to beat him." Like, he's almost like pepping you up. He's giving you a pep talk. Furi, by contrast, antagonizes players with its difficulty so unabashedly that I felt it was consciously and specifically catering to gamers who like to brag about being good at hard games. It didn't feel like that to me. I started playing the game and I thought that, hey, this is pretty easy. The game didn't really get difficult for me until like 3 or 4 hours into the game. And I was on Furi mode, which is saying a lot. Maybe I'm just good at games. Maybe my 900 hours of Dark Souls is good training for this game or whatever. Maybe I'm in the minority that's good at the game naturally, right? Whatever. She goes on. Each of Furi's villains was designed by Afro Samurai creator Takashi Okazaki, and each one shines with his gift for character design. I do agree, all the bosses they're actually super cool. Their wildly fantastical appearances somehow aren't enough to outweigh their repetitive dialogue. This is another, I don't know why she's doing this. She's creating straw men, basically. She's pulling at things. She's exaggerating things. And she goes on, you as quotes from the bosses, and you think you can get out. Look at you. You're a joke. The first boss repeated half a dozen times to my limp corpse. No way, he said. Let's do this. The issue with me is that, as far as I could tell, bosses will only start talking if you whittle down their health in the phase. So the bosses have phases like Kingdom Hearts. They have like They have like a bunch of different health bars that you can see underneath their health. They have like different dots that represent each health bar. And as you whittle them down after their phase, they talk. So at 50% health, they'll say another thing. At 25% health of the phase, they'll say another thing. As you whittle them down, they say more and more things. I heard like maybe the same dialogue repeated twice. Like, didn't seem very repetitive to me at all. Maybe she was just stuck on the same boss for hours, and that's why she became infuriated by it. She goes on. Still, Furi looks damn good. I will skip this. It's very good. The soundtrack is also really good, by the way. I hope you should really check it out on just Google the Furi soundtrack. It's super great. It's very synthy. We'll go on to the next paragraph. I wanted to love Furi. Its trailer begged me to recall the adrenaline rush I associated with my favorite boss fights from my youth, where dynamic and touching storylines added urgency to these one-on-one matches. But what I thought would be the game's greatest draw, its promise of an epic brawl after epic brawl, detached me from investing in my own success. I soldiered on, if only to prove that I wasn't a promenade kind of gamer. So we're gonna address this. I never saw the trailer. I haven't seen any marketing for this game at all. I don't think the game is very well renowned. I don't think many people know about this game. I do agree with her that the storyline isn't the greatest, but it was enough for me. You're it's like Dark Souls. You have to kind of grasp at straws as you play the game. And again, I enjoy how it's presented to me. You're presented storyline and exposition while you're walking between bosses. You get to see the beautiful landscapes as the voice who is your like companion, the guy who's wearing a bunny mask, talks to you and tells you these things. I enjoy storyline being presented like that. I also didn't need to know that much to play the game. Most of the game is combat. I do agree with you. It's nice to know that it's graphically cool and that it's nice to look at, and that the soundtrack is great. I mean, it has a lot of components that make it a good game. It doesn't have to nail all four of them. It just need to have a good storyline too. I thought it was fine. The storyline did get a little bit weird towards the end, but there is a part where you basically escape your cell, right? You're being tortured by the first boss. You escape the cell, you beat the crap out of him, you kill him, you move on to the next boss. But there's a boss towards the end, like 6 or 7, who basically says, hey, you don't have to keep fighting us. You can stay here. And she like looks at this like Garden of Eden type thing where there's just like a paradise. She goes, you can stay here. We'll let you out of your cell. You can stay here. We'll let you be here forever. And in the game, you can do that. Like, I originally thought that, like, I was, like, sitting there, and I was like, can I, like, sit next to her, or what can I do here? But it turned out you have to wait for her dialogue to run out before the game says, all right, you want to stay here, so you can do it. I enjoy a game like that, where it gives you the option that you can just end the game quickly like that. You can end the game before you have to fight all the bosses. I enjoy having the option for that. I think that's cool. So we'll go on. Yeah, the storyline isn't that good. I did feel sort of angry at the people. Like, because they're taunting you while they're fighting you. I did feel sort of a connection between fighting these people. I felt it. I thought it was fine. But what I thought was the game's greatest draw, the promise of epic brawl after epic brawl, I felt like the boss fights were amazing. Because I played the game blind. I didn't look at any playthroughs or anything. So I would fight a boss and then move to the next boss. And I'm looking at it blind. I've never seen it before. And I thought it was exhilarating. My heart was racing all the time. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning a new boss's mechanics and stuff. Detached me from investing in my own success. I don't even know what the heck she's trying to say here. Maybe she didn't enjoy them. I don't know. I thought that the bosses were well executed and put together. And then she goes on. I soldiered on, if only to prove that I wasn't a promenade kind of gamer. So here's what I'm going to talk about the promenade difficulty. The game gives you 3, but 2 of them that really matter. The promenade difficulty is easier. The game is shorter. Again, boss fight mechanics are cut out. Phases are cut out. Bosses have less health. You have more lives, that sort of thing. It makes the game really easy. Almost too easy, to be honest. And that's why I don't recommend you ever play the game on Promenade. The only reason I see somebody playing Promenade is to people who really aren't good at these types of games. If you play Furi and you are having a really tough time and you've spent 6 hours in the same boss and you can't get past him, you need to switch to Promenade difficulty. And again, that's why there's a practice thing. There's a practice mode that you can do. You can fight each boss individually. You can just practice on them. I thought it was super cool. I thought that was a neat mechanic. And it's almost like required when you play this game. I don't think you should play on Promenade. I think you should play on Furi and experience the game how it's supposed to be. Furi here mode is a different story, but I've been playing it. I've been enjoying it so far. The issue with her last sentence, I soldiered on, if only to prove that I wasn't a promenade kind of gamer. The issue is that she is a promenade kind of gamer. It doesn't seem like she's good at this type of thing. I don't think she's good at this type of reflex-heavy game. I don't think that... The thing is that I went back to all of her like articles and stuff, and she doesn't talk about hard games that often. She doesn't play them that often. She usually talks about, and this is not surprising, she talks about women in video games. There's a recent article about women Super Smash Bros. She doesn't play these hard games. She isn't renowned for that. I felt like she was the wrong editor to give this assignment to. I felt like her boss or whatever shouldn't have made her play Furi and then do an article on it. I felt like that was a really bad decision because she is not very good at this type of game. And that's another, I'm going to assume that she has not gotten past the second boss because she only used examples from the first and second boss. She never talks about the other 6 or 7 bosses that are in the game, which makes me super depressed because those are the best ones. The first one's okay. The second one's bland. I mean, the fight gets old after a while, and there are a lot of mechanics that I don't appreciate in the second boss fight. But after that, the game gets great. When I was at the third boss fight, I was like, "Holy crap, this is great!" Because there's like a time stop mechanic you have to compensate for. It's interesting. So I don't think that she beat past the second boss. I think that she got stuck in the second boss and then did the article anyway, which is bad. Which is bad journalism, by the way. I'm going to point that out there. That's terrible journalism. You shouldn't review a game for being too hard if you can't get past the first hour of the game. That's the equivalent of me playing Dark Souls, beating the Asylum Demon after 3 hours of fighting, and then getting stuck in the Dead Parish and going, "This game is stupid," and then doing an article on it, and then doing a video of how stupid the game is. That would be bad journalism on my part. Now, again, just a theory. I maybe she beat the game and is just neglecting to mention the other 7 amazing bosses that I enjoyed 10 times more than the first and second one. Whatever. So we're going to talk about the comment section underneath, right? Because I'm sure somebody has to agree with me, right? So, somebody said, "This is pretty much like going to a FIFA game and then complaining that about all you can do is play football. I mean, if the designers wanted to make the game hard for its own sake, it's their game. With decisions like the short duration of the parry, the end lag of the dash, and the inclusion of a speedrun mode, it's clear they're targeting a niche audience. The audience being gamers who like to brag about being good at hard games, which is honestly not much worse than the type of gamers that feel superior for not feeling superior about something that by definition means that they're superior relating to in-game skills." That's a giant run-on sentence. The gist of it is that you're complaining about a difficult game while you're playing a difficult game that brands itself as a difficult game. And I completely agree with them. I didn't see any marketing. I don't know how the game was marketed, but the game, 1, wasn't hard to me. Maybe I'm just experienced in this type of genre. And 2, he's completely right. If it's hard for people, then don't play it. But don't make an article that uses false element. What end of the lag dash? I don't know what's talking about the end of the lag dash. The dashes felt super fast to me. Maybe I'm just seeing it wrong. Whatever. She responds, by the way, the author. "This analogy isn't really working for me. Analogy worked for me. I mean, it seems fine. Something tells me that not a lot of things work out for her, people included." She goes on, "As I said in the article's first sentence, my issue with Furi isn't that it's difficult. It is. That's your issue with it, is that it's difficult. Which, as you point out, is exactly how the game is built. Yeah, that's it. The game is built for being difficult, and you have an issue with it being difficult. That means that you're stupid. My issue with Furi is that the developers are demanding a level of competence and consideration from players that I'm not sure the game itself delivers." She's basically saying here that the game itself the game mechanics by itself can't let you be competent, and she's completely wrong. I had fun playing the game. I never got stuck on a boss before. It almost seems like Furi is masking its own gameplay flaws by advertising itself to difficulty fetishists. IMO, a pretty brilliant strategy. She's completely wrong. I didn't see any advertising, and maybe it's because the studio is super small. So I don't know what it's marketed as. Maybe it is marketed for being hard, but that really doesn't change the point of the argument, and that is that the game is built as being hard, so it's stupid to complain about it being hard. That's all she does in the article, by the way. There's one of them that was like, the soundtrack's super cool, and I agree with her, and she goes, "Yeah, soundtrack's great." And then there's a person who goes, "I hate games that love to jerk themselves off over how difficult they are. I love some really fantastic hard games like Super Meat Boy and Shovel Knight. Again, those games weren't difficult for me either. They have like set difficulties. They don't get hard. It's not like this game where they offer you a difficulty choice. The developers very specifically give you a way to play the game. Super Meat Boy that's a platformer. There's no difficulty mode for the platformer. And Shovel Knight's the same way. There's no difficulty mode. So you know what the developers give you is how they're meant to play the game. those are games that are hard by design, but which aren't all wrapped up in their identity as hard games. I do agree with him there. I've never seen any marketing for Super Meat Boy Shovel Knight as being difficult. I mean, people say that Shovel Knight and Super Meat Boy are difficult, but I didn't see it. Somebody else replies, I like the game and find the parry fine. It has an audio cue. I forgot to talk about that. In game, when a boss attacks you, they attack or something. They raise their blade to attack or their staff or whatever, and it's super exaggerated their animation. Like they raise their like there's a dude with a samurai sword who raises his arms over his head that you would never do in battle, and then a giant glint of light emanates from the blade, and then it makes a ding noise. It's very clear when you need to parry. But the dash delay kind of feels stupid and is the only issue I have with the game. Maybe I need to go back and play the game because I haven't played it in a couple days since I beat it. But I don't feel the dash delay. Is it, maybe I'm hallucinating and I'm just used to Dark Souls' ridiculous slow fat roll. Oh, and this is my favorite. He goes on to go, or they go on, maybe it's not a he, I shouldn't assume gender, I'm sorry. They go on to go, also, Cecilia, you should try smiling in your profile pic. And I saw that and I went, oh, people are going to be pissed at him. So this is completely unrelated to the article. This is one of the reasons I've quit with Kotaku, all of the weird feminists that are on the site that shouldn't be on the site, to be honest. So, I'm going to read some of the replies. Holy shit, a woman can't even write an article online without a guy telling her to smile. Okay. That's awfully pretentious of you. Tomato Jones says, your comment is insulting and disgusting. I didn't think it was insulting at all. People tell me to smile all the time, and I don't fucking shit my pants over it. Would you tell a man to smile in his profile pic? I would if he looked gloomy as fuck. If Edgar Allan Poe wrote this article, I would tell him to fucking smile. And then they go on to say, I am confident that you would not. You're awfully pretentious too. I don't know why you would assume that just because he's a man, I wouldn't tell him to smile. So maybe cool it with the sexist drivel. Not sexist, by the way. He didn't tell her to smile because she was a woman. He told her to smile because she isn't smiling in her profile pic. Usually there's a semblance of professionalism in a workplace environment where you need to act friendly to adhere to an audience. And it doesn't seem like she's she's a nice person in general. So my only response to that comment is just another moron who enjoys throwing around the word sexist without really knowing what the hell sexist means. That person didn't tell her to smile because she's a woman. They told her to smile because she wasn't smiling. So, whatever. So, that's the end of the rant. God, 28 minutes. I am awful at this. I am really good at droning on and on, but I'm awful at keeping things concise. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got through all 28 minutes of this shit. I'm sorry to put you through this. I hope you have a nice day. Thanks for watching.